So, some people outside the 2A community have this idea that gun owners are just sitting around waiting for the perfect moment to use their firearms. Now, I don't blame some of these people for thinking this because at times the gun community doesn't always do the best job of representing what most responsible gun owners actually believe. With viral videos online of people creating this trend of gun owners excited for the day someone breaks into their house so they can finally test out their arsenal. And while I understand a lot of this is meant as comedy or jokes, and many of you likely see it that way too, for some who don't understand gun culture, I can see how they might take things like this as face value, reinforcing this stereotype that gun owners are just trigger happy and looking for confrontation, which couldn't be further from the truth. Now, I've even gotten this from people in my circle who aren't exactly pro 2A or believe in the need of a firearm for self-defense, who happen to stumble upon my Instagram account. That's where, for those that don't know, I post a lot of my training drills, which I create to work on my speed, accuracy, and overall competence in handling myself in certain situations. Now, the reason I train is not because I'm hoping for something bad to happen, but because I want to be prepared if something ever does, which unfortunately, when people see this kind of training, they get this idea that I'm hoping for something like this to happen, which again, couldn't be further from the truth and is the complete opposite, if anything, because believe it or not, most responsible gun owners' biggest fear is the thought of having to pull out their firearm one day and use it in self-defense, which may sound weird to some, but let me explain my personal reasons and what goes through my mind when I think about the possibility of ever having to use my firearm in self-defense. One of those being in a shootout. Especially during a home invasion, we see it all the time. An armed intruder breaks in, the homeowner grabs their firearm, and suddenly it's a chaotic exchange of gunfire with bullets flying in all directions. And let me be clear, no responsible gun owner actually wants this to happen. No one lies in bed at night hoping for the chance to exchange rounds with a criminal inside their own home. That idea is completely false and is often pushed for the comedic side of things, basically portraying this message that if you fuck around, you're gonna find out. Now, of course, we believe in defending our homes and families if an intruder forces their way in, but the reality of a home invasion gunfight, I'll be honest, shit is terrifying. There is no script, there is no guaranteed outcome, and every bullet fired is a potential risk, not just to the homeowner, but to their family and even nearby neighbors. Now, the next thing I think about is the trauma. I mean, we hear stories where the homeowner or concealed carrier defends themselves, stops the threat, and saves the day. But what we don't see is the psychological effects of using your firearm in self-defense. Now, I believe this is greatly underestimated, especially when the threat doesn't survive. And look, this isn't to justify or have pity on any criminal who dies robbing or harming innocent people. It's about understanding the psychological impact that happens to a person when they take a life, even when it's justified. Look, many of us train to shoot this kind of target, not this one. A lot of gun owners spend hours perfecting their accuracy, their draw speed, and their ability to make fast decisions under stress. But none of that fully prepares you for the reality of pointing a gun at a living person and pulling the trigger. And again, I'm not trying to justify any criminal's actions. You ask me if I have what it takes to take the life of someone who is a threat to me or my family, I believe I do. I believe God has instilled righteous anger in my heart that if I were to see any of my family members, those I love and care for, about to be seriously harmed by an individual, I would do whatever in my power to stop them. But again, even with all the training and willingness to pull the trigger to defend yourself or your family, it still doesn't prepare one for what comes after. The personal toll of that moment lingering on after the threat is gone. I mean, you hear stories of survivors struggling with guilt even when they know they did the right thing, others replaying the moment over and over in their heads, questioning every decision, wondering if they could have done something differently. And for some, it just serves as a sobering reminder about surviving a moment they never wanted to be in the first place. Now, imagine dealing with all that and then on top of it, having to worry about the legal side of things. Now, no matter what, if you draw your firearm and you shoot someone, you're most likely going to be dealing with some sort of legal scrutiny until law enforcement gathers all the details. Even in a clear-cut self-defense situation, you're going to have to justify every action you took. And there's always that fear that your shooting won't be ruled as justified. This is why, as responsible gun owners, we must remember to only use as much deadly force as necessary to stop a threat and nothing more. We are defenders, not murderers. We are not shooting with the intent to murder someone, but to defend ourselves, so once the threat is down and no longer a danger, the right move is to call it in. Look, I'm not a lawyer, this isn't legal advice, but if I were involved in a self-defense situation, here's what I would do. Once it's safe, I would call 911, give them a basic report, let them know, hey, I drew my firearm in self-defense, the threat is down, and they need medical assistance. Trust me, I know how stupid it sounds getting medical assistance for the guy that literally put your life in danger, but a lot of this, I'm looking at it from a legal stance. That's why I give little as detail as possible to what exactly happened. After that, my next call would be to my lawyer, because if I just use my firearm to defend myself, I'm definitely going to need one, especially living here in California. And I wish I could say that the legal battle ends there, with your lawyer helping you navigate the legal system and your shooting getting ruled as self-defense and you being free to go. But sadly, that's not always the case. There's always that chance of the attacker's family coming after you. Crazy, right? I mean, we see it all the time. The mom comes out, which, can we blame them? I mean, that's their child, but there is a chance that they pull out the 8th grade yearbook picture before the face tats and criminal record, talking about how my baby ain't ever hurt nobody, he was a law-abiding citizen who donated to charity and went to church every Sunday, which could mean you find yourself fighting for your freedom, your finances, and reputation, all because someone tried to harm you or your loved one. This is why self-defense isn't just about training with your gun. It's about understanding the legal side of things as well, and being prepared to back up any action you might have taken in defending yourself. And the last thing I think about, since we live in a world where almost everything is caught on camera nowadays, whether it's a hotel security cameras, a traffic cam, or just some random person recording with their phone across the street, there is a good chance that if you're involved in a self-defense shooting, someone's going to have footage of it. And the problem I've seen over the past years is contacts getting lost. The video ends up on social media, and within minutes, people all around the world are forming their own narratives and twisting things around, especially when it comes to guns and self-defense. A video clip without the full story can make anybody look like the bad guy, which we've seen it happen before. Take the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, for example. Kid goes to protect businesses from looters and provide medical aid. Later that night, he gets chased and attacked by 3 individuals and uses his AR-15 to defend himself. Now, I bring the Kyle Rittenhouse story because it was widely reported, gaining significant attention and coverage over the past years, with, from the beginning, media twisting the story. Instead of acknowledging a clear self-defense situation, they painted him as this white supremacist, fascist murderer, ignoring the facts and footage and running with their own narrative, meanwhile turning the people who attacked him, one who was a convicted child molester, into so-called heroes. Man, I just hope these people look back now and realize just how stupid they looked defending these criminals while trying to destroy a teenager who had every right to protect himself. Now, with knowing all this, that if I ever had to use my firearm in self-defense, which again, no responsible gun owner ever wants to do because of the certain things I mentioned, like the terrifying thought of being in a shootout or the trauma of taking a life being something you have to live with for the rest of your life, or the stress of the legal system turning into a nightmare, and the last being the possibility that your story gets twisted by the media, turning you into the villain with your face plastered all over the internet, called by every name in the book. Even after knowing all that, I still choose to carry a firearm, because if that tool is what makes the difference between me seeing my family again or ensuring that my family is protected, then that is the price I am willing to pay. So that's all I gotta say. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure to like, subscribe. Also, if you're interested in seeing some of my CCW drills based on real life scenarios, make sure to check out my Instagram at ShadowTheWicked. Also, if you want to get in contact with me, that's a great place. But other than that, hope you guys have a good weekend. Stay safe and God bless.